to your website. My name is Matt Baer. I'm the founder of Q4Launch and excited to be with you today to dive into this topic that I'm really passionate about, and as a company we have a lot of passion for driving traffic leads and bookings is kind of how we summarize what we do. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're along for the ride today. Glad you decided to spend some time with us. A little bit about Q4Launch and who we are. We are a company that specializes in travel marketing or destination marketing, specifically on the lodging side of the industry, and work with a lot of unique properties to put more heads in beds or drive more traffic leads and bookings. As I said a minute ago, we have the unique opportunity to work with properties from Hong Kong to Napa Valley to the northwesternest most point of Washington. So have a lot of diversity in who our customers are, but all have that commonality around the fact that we partner with them to manage marketing to put more heads in beds. And the strategies we're going to talk about today kind of come from my 14 or 15 years experience now as an internet marketer, which is crazy to think about being able to say you've been doing internet marketing that long, but we have. My first company was an e-commerce company, developed a line of products, and had to learn internet marketing to sell that line of products. And now we have the great opportunity to work exclusively in the travel space and help lodging properties do just that. So the 7 strategies we're going to dive into today come from those 14, 15 years of internet marketing experience and have been honed and honed and honed and refined and are constantly being refined on a much deeper basis to really dive into what's attracting traffic to our website and how do we get that traffic, those travelers, to convert into leads and ultimately convert into a booking and ultimately stay at our properties. So that's a little bit about us as a company, a little bit about my background as the founder of Q4Launch, and you'll see some of those things kind of come out as we move through our time together here today and dive into these 7 strategies. A little bit of housekeeping real quick. We will be sending a recording of this out to everyone who registered. We'll post that recording to our YouTube channel, so if you're not already following us on YouTube, I encourage you to go to youtube.com/Q4Launch, and you can follow us there. Did receive a message from an attendee that the audio is coming in and out. Hopefully that stops. Apologize if you're having a problem with that audio there, but thanks for letting me know about that. If anybody else is having issues, please do use the chat panel to let me know. But the housekeeping we were talking about, the recording will be emailed out. Those of you who are subscribed to us on our YouTube channel will get that notification from YouTube. So youtube.com/Q4Launch is where you can check out that and subscribe to us there. You'll also see a lot of other webinars we've taught in the past, and you can check those out. We will also be doing Q&A at the end of our time together today. So we've got a lot of information packed into this hour, but we'll save a few minutes at the end, and I will hang around as long as we need to answer as many questions as we can. And you can also reach me via email with those questions, which my email and phone number will be on the screen at the end of our time. You also all have that because you've received the confirmation emails from me for registering for today. We will also be referencing a workbook today and off several of the slides. After we finish each of the strategies, there is a workbook that goes along with the presentation. I don't send that out ahead of time because we want you to be really focused and listening as opposed to trying to manipulate the workbook during our presentation. But we will send that out to everyone who's registered at the end. So you can find that, and that will be a helpful resource for you as you're trying to go about the task of implementing much of what you learned today. So check that out. Definitely circle back, listen to the recording, use the workbook as a tool to help you get going on that. So that's just a few things that will hopefully help you make the most out of our time together today. So with that, let's dive in. The first thing that we really look at as we start talking about marketing strategies is we've got to come with an understanding of who our customer is. Everybody talks about, the elements of who's your target customer, and that seems to be kind of a buzzword everybody wants to talk about when they're talking about marketing. But not only is who is your customer important, but understanding where they are in their overall buying process is as important or more important in our opinion. So with that, we have this little graphic that our team's pulled together called Inside the Mind of a Vacationer. And it walks through the 5 stages of the vacation process and really helps us dive into what those are, what are our customers asking, and what will they respond to during those different stages. This came from a research study that Google did in 2011, and it kind of laid these 5 stages out. And then we've taken that research study as a team and really said, okay, what do different consumers respond to? What information are they looking for at these different stages? And it's been very important that we talk about this out front because you have to be thinking about what these stages are and developing marketing strategies to reach consumers or travelers when they're in these different stages. So we'll use some of this language as we move throughout our time together today, but I'd also love for you just to kind of burn this into your mind, so every time you're thinking about marketing, you're thinking about these stages, and you're thinking about how to reach consumers or travelers when they're in these different stages. So we'll run over them. They're on your screen, but I'll touch them real quick. The first stage of the travel process is the dreaming stage. People are dreaming about they're dreaming about the vacation they want to take. The second stage is that they're planning that vacation, and honestly, this is where the majority of time is spent in the vacation process. People actually spend more time planning their vacation than they do taking their vacation. Maybe not in actual hours, but in the amount of time and that leads up to it that goes into that. So it's a tremendous opportunity and a huge block of time for us to be able to reach travelers when they're in this planning stage. The third, and where most people spend the majority of their marketing time focused, is the booking stage. And that makes sense, right? Because that's where money is actually changing hands. But if we only think about the booking stage and we only think about how to convert travelers into bookings at that stage, and we ignore dreaming and planning from a marketing perspective, we have essentially ignored 2/3 of the sales cycle and the majority of the sales cycle from a time spent perspective. And I say sales cycle because ultimately we're using some of that business language to define how we reach our travelers. We are selling them a vacation at the end of the day. We're selling them that experience, so we're going to use some of that same language. But we've got to do a great job of marketing to dreaming and planning, as well as to people who are in the booking stage, so we make sure we earn their business. They have more choices today than they have ever had in the past of where to go on vacation, not only destinations because of the shrinking of the world with the internet and the affordability of airfare, but also with the amount of properties that are just out there that are bookable. I mean, you can book everything from someone's couch to a $1,000+ a night villa over the water in Tahiti. You have all of these options available to you, so you have to be doing a great job of reaching these travelers. The fourth, and this is why we love working in the unique segment of the market or the boutique segment of the lodging market, is the experience stage. And working with the customers that we work with, luxury properties all around the world, you all do the experience stage better than anybody. And it's one of my favorite things I get to do as the founder and CEO of this company, is to go and travel and speak and see the experiences that you all give to your guests and have those while I'm visiting many of the properties that we work with. So this is something I personally love about what we do, and one of the reasons we chose to be in the travel space was our passion as a staff for the experience stage. But you all do this really, really well. But I think as a whole, the industry doesn't do a lot of marketing to people who are in their vacation. They're in the moment. We kind of ignore marketing to them while they're on property, if you will, or in our city. But that's a huge opportunity to think about marketing there as well, and think about how to maximize that opportunity from a revenue perspective, but also guest satisfaction and making sure these guests come back. And then lastly is the remembering stage. We have a tremendous opportunity, and this is one of the most important parts of marketing, is to reach guests who are in this remembering stage, because if we market to them really, really well when they're in their remembering stage, a couple things will happen. One, hopefully they will come back and become a repeat guest with us. But two, hopefully they'll send all of their friends to come stay with us, right? That whole concept of birds of a feather flock together. We know that the type of target customers we want are typically hanging out with the type of customers we've already had. So if we can get them to refer us and send business to us and engage with us on social media and forward our emails and do all those things, we have a tremendous opportunity to capture them in this remembering stage and get them coming back. And we believe as a company, we had an aha moment in a staff meeting years ago about, this was laid out originally as a cyclical process, but we believe as a company, if we're doing marketing well, we're implementing the 7 strategies and then more, because there's much more than the 7 we have time to talk about today. But if we implement those 7 really, really well, this becomes a cycle. And the remembering stage, when guests are marketed to very well when they're in that stage, they go back to the dreaming stage. And they start dreaming about the next vacation that they're going to take. And then they start planning that vacation. And if you're doing your marketing well, this goes from a linear process to a cyclical process that ends with repeat guests. And that's ultimately what, of course, we all want, is that repeat guest. Those are our most profitable, they're our best guests because they come back year after year. So I want you to think about that. I know we've talked about it a lot in the last 3 minutes, but just ingrain that into your mind and be thinking about these stages as you're planning your marketing strategy, which is more applicable now than ever, especially with the calendar year about to roll over on us. And I know don't skip Thanksgiving and Christmas, but from a strategy perspective, I know many of us are already planning for 2016. So really important thing to be thinking about as you're planning your 2016 strategy and making sure you're finishing 2015 really strong. So let's dive in and start looking at our 7 strategies. Strategy number 1 is send more email. And we always get a collective sigh when we say this because people have a lot of misconceptions about email marketing. The most common misconception that we hear is that my guests don't want more email. And in reality, what I hear when I hear people saying that isn't about the fact that you don't think your guests want more email. I think a lot of us just don't want to send more email. You know, even though we're based in Charleston, South Carolina, the company, we call things as we see them quite often. And I'm going to call out a lot of us for just being lazy, too lazy to take the time to actually study the type of emails our guests are responding to, study what they're clicking on, study what they're opening. And if you do that, you can create great email that people are actually excited to and break through that barrier of how busy you are and the desire that you have to not send any more email, which I get that, right? I mean, you're all busy, you've all got a lot going on, but using that excuse of my guests don't want more email to not send more email isn't going to fly. We have tons and tons of data. We send over 1 million emails a month as a company, and we track and analyze all of that data every single month, and we know your guests want more email because they tell us that by the behavior they display when we send them campaigns. And go with me a little bit here on this journey of the person who's receiving your email. We talked about trying to get inside the mind of the vacationer just a few minutes ago, and that's really important to us because as a company we think about that a lot and we teach that a lot. We really want to get inside the mind of who our customer is. That's good marketing. That's good advertising. But as we do that, look at this stat with me, and you've probably already read it on the screen, but the American worker is spending 28% of their workday on email. That is crazy. That's well over 2 hours a day, maybe 2.5, maybe 2.8, considering the average American worker is working between 8 and 10 hours a day. So when you think about that, all of that email, it's usually about 100 or more emails a day, all of that email, it's a little overwhelming, and that's why you may have that misconception that guests don't want more email. But think about the type of email they're getting. They're at work, they're getting more requests from coworkers for them to do more work, they're getting requests from their boss to do work they don't really want to do that frustrates them. They're getting all this email that's work-related, and they're sitting there at their desk, and it's a little bit overwhelming. But then your email arrives in their inbox, and they see that great subject line you've written, and they see your property's name there, and immediately they're reminded of the vacation that they had, that special time with their family where they got away for a week and they came and they booked a spot at your place and stayed in your city and ate oysters or did the crab rolls or whatever. They're reminded of that, or they're reminded of that special weekend getaway with their spouse. Maybe it was a baby moon or a honeymoon or an anniversary trip to celebrate something special. They're reminded of that experience. And for a brief moment, in their busy, hectic workday of 100-plus emails and 28% of their time being spent responding to email, they get a reprieve. They get a timeout where it actually looks like they're still working, right? So their boss walks by and he sees them and they're like, oh, Johnny's working hard. Johnny's always working hard. Love that. But in reality, Johnny's checked out. Johnny's remembering that special time that he and his wife had at your inn, and Johnny's remembering some special things that happened on that vacation. And what do you think that makes Johnny want to do? That makes Johnny want to come back and have that experience again. And we talk about eliciting an emotional response from our travelers. We're going to talk about that more in depth in a minute, but that's what happens. If you send a great email, you elicit this emotional response, and you'll break through that misconception of people not wanting more email. You just have to send a great email and give them that break in the middle of their day to actually check out for a few minutes and enjoy the email that you sent them while still looking like they're working. Just don't send any of our employees email. Just kidding. They get a ton of email, and it actually helps because we're in the marketing space. So we analyze other people's content as well and talk a lot about that as a team. So let's look at that. Here's an example of a good email campaign. This is a small property in Ellicott City, Maryland that we work with just outside of Baltimore and D.C. And what I want to really draw your attention to here is a couple things. One is a lot of visuals, right? I mean, we're very visually oriented people in today's culture, so we want to use that in our email campaign. All too often we send people email, and we're on a lot of these lists from places, but they send out email and it almost looks like a novel, and you immediately get it, and it doesn't create that emotional experience. It just makes me bored a little bit because it's so much text. I'm looking for a break, not for more work to do. Looking at images is a break, but just reading a bunch of text is not. So we're using a lot of images. We're using buttons so people can skip text and go straight to the buttons, go straight to what it is they really want to see, so they can just kind of get that quick snippet, know if it's something they're interested in, and they can move on. But we don't necessarily, it's important for them to click on this, but if they don't, we've still accomplished something. We've still accomplished getting top of mind and being the person that they thought about today. And when they're thinking about the next vacation they want to take, I want to be the last person that sent them an email, because that means I am most likely to be top of mind. And if I'm top of mind, I stand a chance of earning that business. If I'm not top of mind and they've forgotten about me, I have no chance of getting that business. So even if they're not opening your email, not clicking on your email, you've still accomplished something by showing up in their inbox and having that brand recognition and staying top of mind. So a couple things we want to talk about. One, of course, is driving traffic. That's what everybody's here for today. And I can tell you, as all the analytics analysis we do, and we do hundreds of these a year, it's a service we give away just to try to help people in the industry. But of all the analytics analysis we do, no other marketing medium, short of maybe a flash sale, can drive this kind of traffic. You know, as we really look at what we're seeing on the screen, every single one of those spikes that you see, all the little tops of those blue lines, were email marketing campaigns that were sent out. They were blasts sent out to our list and drove a ton of traffic for us that day, and there's nothing else you can do from a marketing perspective that will perform like that. There's no other marketing medium that can match the ROI or return on investment we see from email marketing. But all too often what we see is when we do an analytics analysis with somebody is we'll jump into Bill's analytics and we'll see one spike like this and then a flat line the rest of the year, and I'll say, hey Bill, what happened on June 2014? And I'll hone in on that day because we can see that in analytics, and we'll hear him shuffling a little bit, trying to figure that out, because usually these are be a go-to meeting, much like our time is today. And Bill will find and say, you know what, I'm not sure, but I think I sent an email campaign that day. And I'll say, I bet you did, Bill, because there's nothing else that will drive that kind of traffic short of email or a flash sale. And flash sales aren't really a sustainable business practice, so we hope and assume it's email. But then the question ultimately is, Bill, why did you send that one and then not send any more? And usually the answer is because Bill got busy. Bill sent that campaign and drove some business for him. He thought he was good. He got busy doing other things. Peak season came around. Lots of reasons why we didn't send the next email campaign and the next email campaign. But we have to commit to consistency in that strategy to really make this work for us. And when we do, we drive a lot of traffic and a lot of bookings from email marketing. So as we look at that, we look at some ideal pieces of our overall strategy. And the first and foremost is to commit to sending email campaigns twice per month or 2 times per month. Typically, we'll want one of those to kind of highlight events and happenings, things going on in your area, things going on in your city. And what we're really talking about here is giving people a reason to come, right? When we highlight events and happenings, we're giving people reasons to come visit us. You know, if they love us, they love our city, we tell them about the concert that's coming up or the beer festival that's coming up or the wine tours or whatever. We've given them a reason to escape their own city, come up to ours, and have a little retreat. And we're educating them about what those things are. And this is really easy to do, but you've got to give people a reason to come. You've got to market that entire experience, not just your property. And then the second is a little bit more of a salesy email, but highlighting packages and specials, which ties back into the things to do, of course, because we're always marketing the experience, but tying that back to some type of sales offer. It doesn't have to be a discount. We actually don't do very much discounting. We work with mostly luxury properties, and discounting is just not usually a big part of that scenario, but we're tying it to a package, a special, or an experience. It could be an adventure package or something like that, where people can come and they can have this adventure experience, and you package all that together, which makes it easier on your guests to book that whole experience, as opposed to just booking a room for the night. Very different thing. So using that opportunity will bring guests to your area and get them to your website to check those things out. So let's look at a couple other elements of great email campaigns. Of course, we've got to use a great subject line. So here's a couple examples. One that's close to home, since we're in Charleston, we use this example, but 10 things you have to do in Charleston this summer. As a consumer, I have to know what those 10 things are. You've immediately piqued people's curiosity, and they cannot go on living until they have figured out what the 10 things you have to do in Charleston this summer. And by sending this out, which of course in this case would be a great blog post that we would have written and posted to our blog, and that's on our site, so then we're teasing that with this email and bringing people back to the site to read it all. But these 10 things are great reasons to come visit us in Charleston this summer. You know, Charleston's crazy hot in the summer, so a lot of times it's a bit of a slower season for many of the luxury Charleston properties, especially August. It's so stinking hot. People just don't want to come. So if you write this and you feature these great things to do in August, it's a great way to drive what's traditionally shoulder season business. And it's a great subject line, so it's going to get people to open it, it's going to get people to read it, and then if it's great content, once they actually read it, they'll share it on social media, they'll forward it to their friends, and hopefully start planning a trip to Charleston. As opposed to, which you could have written, which was Charleston Inn Newsletter Issue number 6, or Charleston Vacation Rental Newsletter Issue 6. And then you just see the difference in that. But it's amazing to me how many people are still sending out email newsletters with a naming of that like this. Nobody cares that it's issue number 6. That's not relevant to anybody. You don't have people that are just hanging on every word that they're like, oh, issue 6. Oh, I don't remember issue 5. Did I miss issue 5? Like, let's be real. That's just not happening. So this just makes people not really care. If you have a ton of brand loyalty, which I'm sure many of us do, that's great that you put your name in there, and that's what we're trying to represent when we say Charleston Inn, is ultimately that's your brand name. That's great, but your brand name should be who it's from. That should already be displayed as the sender. So you need to use that subject line to really pull people in and tell them what's in there. A few more tips as we look at the content of email campaigns. Make sure your content matches your subject line, right? It seems pretty basic, but it's something we see a lot of people get wrong. If you're going to use the subject line, 10 things you have to do in Charleston this summer, you probably need to have that content in your email campaign and make sure it's up close to the top where it's obvious for people when they open that. If your content doesn't match your subject line, you'll lose your guest trust over a period of time, and you'll have less and less people opening your campaigns over a period of time. Make sure that you're using great photos to create or elicit that emotional response like I talked about. Photography is the #1 way to elicit an emotional response. And if you're wondering, well, I wonder what photos I have that elicit that emotional response, a great way to test that is posting photos in social media. When you post a photo in social media, look and see which ones get the most like, comments, and shares. The photos that get the most like, comments, and shares are also the same photos that elicit an emotional response from your followers. That's why they're engaging with that particular photo. So using that, you can use social media as a great way to kind of split test photos that you'll then ultimately use in your email campaigns or your website or anywhere else. You can use that as a platform to test which photos your guests like the most without having to be like all super fancy split testy. You absolutely can do split tests too, and we do a lot of that as a company, but the cheap way to do that or the easy way is just check it out on social media. Then also make sure you're using calls to actions or buttons to drive clicks. Don't make it hard on your guest or your email subscriber to figure out where to click. Link everything. Link calls to action, buttons, headlines, images, read more. Link all of it. You need to understand that people think and behave differently. Typically, there's very visually oriented people who are more photocentric. They're more likely to click on photos. I'm one of those people. If I try to click on a photo and it's not a link, I immediately get frustrated with my web experience. And there's people that are going to read all that text. And you need to think about those people. They're going to read that whole paragraph of text, which hopefully is a small paragraph, but they're going to read all that paragraph, and then they're going to click read more at the bottom of it. Some people are very headline driven. They're going to read the headline, and they're going to click on that headline. So you've got to link all this stuff because you've got to think about consumers think and behave differently, and you need to build your marketing around those different things to make sure you're reaching them effectively and optimizing for that click-through. And then expect to see results and don't give up. Don't be like Bill in that story I told earlier where you send one campaign, you got great results, but you weren't in your analytics, so you had no idea the level of results you got. You're not tracking that. Or you're using email, but you're not tracking it properly. You don't have it set up to track in analytics. And lots of other reasons people stop doing email marketing, but don't give up. It's one of the most powerful marketing mediums you can use. And as we set an expectation of how much traffic you should expect to see from email marketing, we see about a 4 to 5% click-through rate on our average email marketing campaign. Contrast that to the industry standard, which is about 2%. So we perform at about twice the industry average, which is great. We should. We're professionals. This is what we do for a living. But we set that expectation for you as well. Your campaign should be performing at twice the industry average, we believe. So as you're thinking about that, if you're getting a 4% click-through rate and you're sending two campaigns per month, that's how we get to that 8% number. 2 times 4% gives us 8%. And then think about how big your database is. If your database has 10,000 people in it and 8% click-through, then you should be expecting to see about 800 visits a month in monthly traffic to your website. And if you're not sending email marketing right now, it's usually when I teach this in person, I kind of poll the audience, and only about 10 to 20% actually send 2 or more campaigns per month. But if you're not, if you're in that 80 to 90% who's not sending 2 or more campaigns per month, that's how much traffic you're missing out on a monthly basis. So as we're talking about increasing traffic, you're missing a huge opportunity here if you're not doing this well. If you are doing it well, there's always opportunities to improve by looking at the data and understanding what people are looking for, what they're clicking on, and building your future content strategy around what's been successful for you in the past. So we're huge fans of email marketing. We do a ton of it as a company and have a ton of results from it and drive a lot of bookings with email. So when you get your workbook and you're following along, there's some great tools in there to help you plan your email marketing strategy. As we keep moving along here, let's talk about strategy number 2, and that's to write more blogs. We hear a lot of misconceptions around this. I actually just taught this same session in Wisconsin earlier this week. I was speaking at a conference up there and had a lot of people come up to me afterwards and really connect with me on this misconception, that they've been taught by other marketing professionals that no one was reading blogs anymore. And I can tell you that is absolutely the farthest thing from the truth. Blogging has changed, as has search engine optimization, but neither of those things are dead. And the people that are out there beating their drum that blogging or search engine optimization are dead are really just the people that don't get it. And I can prove that to you. We've got case study after case study of how this works, one of which I'm going to show you today in our time, but we've got hundreds of them to show you how this really works. So as we look at this, and kind of one of the ways to prove that it's not dying, the terms blogging, or really the term content marketing, which is what it's become called, is content marketing, where you're using great content to market to and reach travelers, is the fastest growing segment of internet marketing in the overall marketing space. There's more people searching content marketing now than there are actually searching internet marketing. So we believe in the next couple of years the term internet marketing is going to kind of die off and it's going to be replaced by the term content marketing, which is something we're excited about because we believe it's actually better marketing. We think the success of that marketing, the quality of that marketing is better than traditional internet marketing, which a lot of times got a little bit spammy. But content marketing is the exact opposite of that when it's done well. It's all about great content that tells a story. The other reason blogging is so important is because that every Google update ever, panda, penguin, pigeon, any fuzzy pea animal that we've all come to know and hate, all of those updates have always rewarded great content creation, great blogging, done consistently. So if you're looking to win the search engine game, if you're looking to bring more traffic to your site, every time Google has published an update, they have always rewarded websites that create quality content on a regular basis. And the ultimate reason behind that is you're being a resource for people that are planning, in our case, their vacation, but in the Google world, planning anything, doing anything, you're being a resource for these people. And when people are asking Google questions, you need to be the people that they find. You need to be the person that has the answer to that question. And if Google finds your content and finds that it's the answer to that person's question, Google will serve that up in a search result. It doesn't have to be as obvious as vacation rentals in San Diego or bed and breakfast San Diego or hotel in San Diego. It's all about creating content that are really helping people plan these vacations. And when you're helping people plan your vacation, Google will serve that content up and you'll get results. So as we look at that, we'll dive into a quick case study on how to do that well. So we have a customer up in the Chatham, Massachusetts, which is the Cape Cod area, and we saw a lot of people who were doing keyword searches for Cape Cod Shark Adventures. What does Cape Cod Shark Adventures have to do with a bed and breakfast in Chatham, Massachusetts? Well, the surface really not that much. But when you think about the fact that we saw a lot of people searching for this, i.e. a lot of people were looking for this when they were planning their trip to Cape Cod, right? So we think about that whole vacation stage we talked about, the dreaming, planning, booking. If we can reach people who are in the dreaming and planning stage of their vacation, and they find our inn or they find our properties, when they get to the booking stage, they now know we exist, and we are now a part of that conversation. We now have the opportunity to be the place that they book when they book their place to come to Cape Cod. Whereas before, they might not have even known we existed. Think about how many inns are in Cape Cod. There's hundreds of them. And thousands of lodging options up there, but we're the person that has the answer to this question. We've written a great blog about it. So we wrote this great blog about Cape Cod Shark Adventures. We got ranked 3rd on Google, behind only the actual company's website and their actual Facebook page. I think we're 4th now. Forbes.com also wrote an article about it. Forbes is a little bit bigger than us, so they outranked us for it, but still getting a ton of traffic for it. And when we look at that, we look at this traffic. We pulled this traffic back in August through the end of July. This blog had driven 1,496 visits through the end of July this year alone. In the month of July, not the year as a whole, but just that one month, this one blog drove 781 visits to this inn's website. And when we look at all of their blogs, all the blogs that we had written for them, or in your case you would write on your own or work with somebody too, but all the blogs drove 2,919 visits to this website in the month of July. When you think about the fact that the average lodging property or vacation room company has about 4,000 visits a month to their website, 3,000 additional visits in 1 month from blogging is essentially almost doubling their traffic. That's a 75% increase in traffic just from having a great blogging strategy. So as we're talking about increasing traffic, that's the type of impact we're talking about making. It's a huge opportunity, but it's a very time-consuming opportunity, so most people won't do it. And those that do it, very few actually do it well. And we're going to talk a little bit about what doing it well looks like here in a minute too. But this is a huge opportunity. Andrea, the innkeeper, when this blog really started taking off and getting a lot of traction, she sent us an email and ultimately called us the next day, but she was like, you guys wouldn't believe it. I'm getting 3, 4, 5 phone calls every day, people asking me about the Shark Adventure blog that we wrote. And of course, what question do you think Andrea asked them when they call? She talks to them about the Shark Adventures, which she's actually never been on, but she knows a lot about it now because she's read the blog that we wrote on her behalf and she's learned about it to tell her guests about it. But when Andrea gets that call and they're asking her about it, she says, and where are you going to stay when you come to the Cape? And she has booked a lot of rooms as a result of people picking up the phone and calling her and talking to her about this blog that she wrote, or that they perceive that she wrote, and she's booking rooms as a result of that. So tremendous opportunity to use blogging or to use content marketing to put heads in beds. Be the person who has the answer, and then convert those inquiries or those travelers into bookings. So when we look at this, we talked about, it's not just got to be a post, but it's got to be a great blog post. So here's 7 elements that we have found all great blog posts have. And we write hundreds of blog posts every month as a company. So we're doing a ton of research on what Google is looking for. I was actually talking with our director of marketing yesterday and talking about some testing we're doing this month. There's kind of a little wager going on amongst our staff on who could have the most successful blogging month as far as getting blogs ranked. So some cool things going on. But we're constantly testing this and bringing that information to the marketplace and doing it on behalf of our customers. But here's 7 elements that we've found. Of course, you've got to start with a keyword or key phrase in mind. And the case study I gave you, that's the Cape Cod Shark Adventures. Repeat that 3 to 4 times throughout the content you're writing. That's not keyword stuffing, that's just natural. If you're going to write a blog about Cape Cod Shark Adventures, chances are you're going to say that at least 3 to 4 times in your blog post. There's just no way to write a blog post about a topic without repeating the topic in your content. Make sure that's in your URL as well, or the website address of the actual post that you write. When you're doing your writing, write 500 to 700 words. And I get that that's usually kind of the, whoa, that's overwhelming. That's a lot. That's a lot of information to put out. But it's so important, because as you're doing that, that's what Google is really going to be pushing content out wise. Those are the people that they're ranking. There was a shakeup in the search world a few years ago now, but Google said they were essentially going to ignore anything less than 300 words. And those of us that were doing content marketing said, whoa, what is this going to mean? Does this mean we have to write 1,000 words? Like, what's the hidden message here? Because Google usually says something, but there's all these other layers beneath that they're not saying. So we set out as a company, I talked about we do a lot of testing. We split our blogs up amongst our team and said, okay, I want a blog written at a specific word length for every single customer throughout our entire customer base. So we wrote blogs that were 400 words, 500 words, 600 words, 700, 800, 900, 1,000 words. We split all that up, and a month later we analyzed the results of which blogs got ranked, which blogs brought in traffic, and was there a correlation between the length of the blog, i.e. the word count, the length of the blog, and the actual people who were searching that. I just got a message that there's no audio. Is anybody else experiencing that, or is it just one person? Because if there's not audio, if somebody could just let me know, that would be great in the chat panel. Awesome. Getting some messages, you're fine. Good. I appreciate that. But we'll keep moving. Thank you for those of you who are tuning in. We'll keep moving along here. Sorry for the people who well, she wouldn't know, but not getting audio. So what we did was all that testing, and what we found was the sweet spot for us was 500 to 700 words. It was kind of that sweet spot of content. We didn't see a drop-off in ranking when we went longer, but what we did see was that it took a lot more time, right? So we were looking for that sweet spot. So we were writing a bit shorter blog posts. Most of our posts were around 400 words up to this. So we had to make a commitment as a company to lengthen our posts to that 500 to 700 words, which drove our cost to deliver that service higher. It meant it took more time, but the results were so much higher. It was absolutely worth it. So if you're going to tackle this, make sure you hit that. We see a ton of people writing really short blog posts, and then they don't see results, which is unfortunate, but that's why, because it's not long enough. Make sure that you're including an image or two in your content. And then this is really about creating white space, which you see there below. But the image is going to engage your visitor visually. They're going to make them more interested in the subject by seeing an image. And it's going to kind of pull them into the rest of the content. So we recommend using images to pull people in, but also using white space, bulleted lists, numbered lists, any content you can to break that up for your reader. Because if it just looks like a huge paragraph of text, it's going to overwhelm them. And when they come to the website, they're going to probably leave as a result. And then as you're doing that, make sure that you're including 2 internal links, which would be links to other pages on your website, as well as 2 external links. And then make sure that you're sharing it all over. You've put all this work into writing this great blog. Now you've got to have a blog promotion strategy. So make sure to share that all over. Share it in social media. Share it in your email marketing. Share it at cocktail hour. Tell everybody you know this great blog you just wrote and get them to share it with their friends. So a lot of opportunity there. And then probably the most important thing in this whole thing is to post weekly. You know, if you kind of caught this, we try to put the important things in green, but post weekly. What we have found is that if you're not posting weekly, that it's not nearly as effective. You won't have nearly as much content ranked from Google. And when you post weekly, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait probably 4 to 6 months to start seeing results. And we believe, as we've tested this, that we think Google knows that most people will quit within 4 months. Every time we launch a blogging strategy with a customer, we see almost 0 results for the first 3 or 4 months. But in the 4th through the 6th month, and really in the 7th through the 12th month, and then that much stronger in the month thereafter, that much stronger because we're creating more content. And Google is rewarding those efforts by posting, or by ranking, let me get the right word there, by ranking a lot of our blog posts. So tremendous opportunity, but you cannot quit within those first 6 months, or you'll never get to that part where you actually see the results. And when I say that, I always follow it up with, if you cannot commit to writing a weekly blog post every single week and publishing that and following our 7 great elements, and you can't commit to doing that for 6 months, don't waste your time starting. Because if you can't commit to the long haul, what will happen is you'll do it for a couple months, and you'll say, Matt's a liar, I'm not seeing any results, like you'll get frustrated and you'll quit when you were that close to having breakthrough. You're that close to creating success, but you quit before it was time to get there. So expect to see results, but expect to not see them for at least 3 to 6 months. It's amazing what happens if we really get into the 2nd year, and I showed you analytics on that. The 2nd year dwarfs the 1st year from a results from blogging perspective. So huge opportunity out there, but it's a lot of work to really do it well. So let's keep moving along here. That's a lot of information. We hear a lot of questions about those, so we spend a lot of our time there. But let's keep moving along here and look at a few other things. We'll spend less time on the rest of these. But use social media to stay top of mind. As I talked about, we often do polls and ask the audience, hey, who all's engaged in these different areas? And when I ask people who's managing their social media on a regular basis, everybody raises their hand. And then they all get a little disheartened when I say, social media is the thing that the majority of people spend the most of their time on from a marketing perspective because it's the easiest thing to do. It's the most natural thing to do. It's social after all. But while it's the easiest and people spend the majority of their time there, it also has the lowest return on investment of any marketing medium that we see that's a part of the content marketing umbrella. So most of us are spending the majority of our time investing into the medium with the lowest return on investment. So that immediately kind of tells us, whoa, something's wrong from a strategy perspective here. And hopefully that jumps out. And if you take nothing else away, spending a little bit more time on other areas is going to definitely work for you and drive more traffic. But if you think about it, and our misconception we run into here is that no one cares that I'm drinking coffee today. You're right. But if that's what you think social media is about, then you miss the point altogether. Actually, if you're posting about drinking coffee today, there's probably a lot of people that actually care, but mostly just because of the red cup controversy that's going around, which is absolutely ridiculous. But coffee is more popular on social media as a topic right now than probably any other time in history. So it kind of blows my example up here, but a funny thing nonetheless. But as we look at this and really what it takes to succeed in social media, we encourage people to focus on 1 to 2 platforms that come the most naturally to you. If you love taking pictures with your phone, Instagram is probably a great platform for you. If you're very short and quippy, maybe Twitter is a great platform for you. But focus on 1 or 2 that become most naturally and do those really, really well, as opposed to trying to do them all and doing them all poorly and being overwhelmed at the end of the day. Make sure you're sharing great photos, because ultimately all social media is very photocentric, very photo-driven. And use that as an opportunity to see which of your photos really elicit emotional responses. Make sure you're connecting with other pages by tagging them in your posts. Connect with our page. By all means, you can like us on Facebook and become friends with us and tag us in what you're doing so we know what's going on. We love seeing that as well. And then make sure you connect with guests and their friends by posting pictures of your guests while they're at your inn or your vacation rental and tag them. Now, you got to be careful with this, right? I mean, I don't need to go into reasons why you be careful. We all get that. But if you have guests that are repeat guests, they stay with you a lot, you know them, you have a relationship with them, you can make them the star of your social media strategy, especially at vacation rentals. People love pictures of kids. It's a tremendous opportunity. If you know the guests, right, you have that relationship to actually post those pictures and get people excited about what's going on. We also set a goal, and I'm going to talk about a goal here in a minute for social media for you. But we talk a lot about growing your social media following and the importance of that. And I think there's a misconception around the fact that numbers don't mean anything in social media. And I'm here to tell you that they absolutely do. The number of people who follow you essentially is the audience that you have. It's the audience of people that are following you and that you have an opportunity to get your message in front of. So if you have a last-minute cancellation or you have last-minute availability, especially during a peak season when you know that would be booked up if people knew about it, you've spent all this time and energy growing your audience, and then when you have that last-minute availability or last-minute cancellation or really any message you need to get out there for any reason, you've built an audience to be able to do that and send that message out to. So what we love to do is build that audience, and then when the time is right, when we need to use that audience to get a message out, we have the audience, we can put that post up, we can really design that post well, use a great photo, a great call to action, and then we can boost that post. And in the case where it's a last-minute cancellation, we'll use that example, you can boost that to the drive market that's within 2 to 3 hours of you. People can take a last-minute trip and drive to a destination within 2 to 3 hours away. They're not very likely to actually fly to a destination that's, you know, a flight away because of all that, unless they have a private jet. If they have a private jet, they're probably not that worried about a last-minute deal. But they will drive to your destination for a last-minute opportunity, especially couples, people that aren't reliant, you know, that don't have kids. Obviously, kids slow that whole thing down a bit, but couples very much can. So if you have a lot of couples traveling together or by themselves that are a big part of your target market, huge opportunity to create that content and then boost it to the area within the drive market of your property. So great opportunity to actually get a trackable ROI out of social media. And then I talked about that growth goal. We set a goal for all of our customers to grow at 5 to 10% per month. You can see this line. You can see where it starts growing again. The growth was pretty small there for a while, but you can see that ranch it up. But that's all about having a strategy to specifically grow your social media following. So when you have an opportunity to put out a post that's a little bit more sales-oriented, you have an audience to receive that. And we accomplish this goal for every one of our customers because we've built a strategy to do that. And to compare that to the industry average and maybe where some of us find ourselves, most of us who aren't growing at this pace, the industry average is growing 10 to 12% per year. So maybe 1% per month, whereas we're trying to grow 5 to 10% per month. So it's just much more aggressive, and the reason is it's all about building an audience. And when you open your workbook, you'll find some tools in there to help you with your social media strategy and really figure out where you're going to focus, where you're going to get photos, all those sort of things. All right, so strategy number 4, we're going to just barely touch on SEO. It's a huge topic, but we're just going to barely touch on it. But you need to be doing the basics at least to succeed. The first and most obvious is to claim and optimize your Google Plus page. I'm still boggled by how many people there are who haven't done this. As I travel and I'm looking for destinations and I see these pages unclaimed and unmanaged, it's like, whoa, it's kind of like SEO 101. You got to have that. You got to have that done. Make sure that your website address is there. Make it easy. Back in August, Google actually changed the way this was all being displayed. They took phone number and email address off of these pages, and they put the little click to call button for the phone, and they put the website button there. So that's great because it helps us get traffic. They've made some changes in the past that actually were reducing the number of people clicking through to your website. But this change, we believe, is going to help get more traffic back when people are looking for your property. So that's a good thing for us, but we've got to have a great Google Plus page to be taking advantage of that. Make sure that our page has great photos. Make sure that we're driving at least a few reviews to Google Plus, because we believe it is a factor in the overall ranking algorithm, and unfortunately a lot of people in the whole review game ignore the Google side of it and focus mostly on TripAdvisor or whatever other platforms. But make sure part of your review strategy involves Google Plus, because you need to be getting reviews consistently to that platform. Make sure you're in the local map. The update that Google rolled out also really, there was a huge shakeup last year about this time, or maybe it was August of last year, that they changed what was showing in the map pack, and they changed the numbers. It used to be consistently across the board, there were 7 listings showing up on that map. Now, well, a year ago they made that change, and we did a ton of research, and we saw it was ranging from 3, 5, 7, a lot of variation in that. Well, this last August, it pretty much went across the board to 3. So pretty much every search that we do and we manage went to 3 listings, which means they cut it in less than half as many as there used to be. So now it's a lot harder to get in that map. But you need to be looking at that and making sure you're in that map, and then optimizing your strategy to get in that map if you're not. Part of that is going to be making sure that your name and address and phone, or what gets coined as a NAP, is uniform across listings. So do you spell the word drive, or do you use DR period? You need to train your staff for that. Do you have an 800 number, or do you have a local number? A lot of us have both. But which do we publish on the web? You need to create uniformity on all this across your company. We recommend writing this exactly how you want it to be on a postcard, or putting it, however, if you're very digital, that's great, but put it where your staff will see it and train them on how it's going to be displayed. Anytime they're posting it on the web, it needs to be uniform. They might think you're a bit crazy, and who cares if drive is spelled out or abbreviated, but this is why it's important, because Google wants to see that uniformity. And then ultimately, if your traffic is down year over year, the same people who say SEO is dead and blogging is dead are the same people who are saying your traffic is down year over year, and that's okay. You shouldn't be worried about it. I can tell you every single one of our customers' traffic is up year over year, and from organic search specifically, it's up between 25 and 40% year over year. So I only tell you that to say that your traffic shouldn't be down. If your traffic is down and you're being told not to worry about it, chances are something is wrong in your overall content marketing strategy, or your company is still trying to implement old school internet marketing strategies in a new content marketing world, and that's why it's down. But if it is down and you find yourself in that place, the number one thing you can do to start getting it turned around is to start blogging. I talked about every Google update ever has rewarded this great blogging, great quality content creation. So the number one thing you can do to get on board is to start being a part of that solution, being a part of what we know Google wants to see from us. And then the last one there, if you're still not sure, if you're not seeing the results, reach out to someone who can help you understand why. Reach out to someone who's really an expert at this stuff, and there's a lot of people out there that really are experts at this stuff, and they get it, and it's usually pretty obvious who does and who doesn't by asking the right questions. And there's a lot of people that can really help you understand why your traffic is down and then develop a plan or a strategy to get that turned around. Most of us, or most people we see as we do these analytics analysis, get about 40% of their traffic from organic search. So let's make that jump and assume that if 40% of our traffic comes from organic search. 40% of our business or revenue comes from organic search as well. And if yours is down, you're at a huge risk to lose a significant part of your business. Which with the announcement from Expedia buying HomeAway this last week, I think I'm losing track of days as much as I'm traveling right now, but this last week, it's even more important now than ever to make sure that traffic to your website is up, that you're managing it, and that you have a strategy to maximize that. We actually just published a blog last week, and many of you probably got the email. It's had a ton of traffic in the last few days. But we published a blog with some of the things we're seeing from that and what we believe is happening. But the short of it is, building your brand is going to be more important now than ever. Otherwise, you will absolutely be at the whim of the online travel agents and those people who are controlling or trying to control the travel marketplace. So a little sidebar there. Strategy number 5 is to have a 5-star review strategy. Notice I didn't say have a 4-star review strategy or just have a review strategy. You have to have a 5-star review strategy because most properties we work with are 4.5 stars on no matter what platform. So what happens when you get a 4-star review? You're a 4.5-star property and you get a 4-star review. A 4-star review actually brings your rating down. So you have to have a strategy to get more 5-star reviews. We're almost out of time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We have a whole other webinar we teach just on TripAdvisor, so I encourage you to check that out if we do it in the coming months. But you've got to be at the top of TripAdvisor because it means huge traffic for you if you're there. You need to automate your strategy as much as possible. TripAdvisor Review Express can help you do this, or you can do this, and we do this through our own email marketing software because then it's captive to us and we have control over that data. But you can do it through email marketing software using autoresponders as well. And then as you're building that review strategy, don't forget about Google+. Tying that back to search engine optimization, make sure not to forget about that. So the first 5 strategies we've talked about have been mostly about driving more traffic. We're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk about something else that we think is really important, and that is setting goals for each of these areas. We are big on kind of this holistic approach or this integrated approach to marketing, but we also believe that what gets written gets done. And we're very goal-driven as a company, and we teach people to be that way as well, very data-driven. So you absolutely have to be setting goals for each of the areas you're tackling in marketing. If you're going to increase your investment in marketing in the coming months or the coming year, and when I say investment, I'm talking time and money, right? Those are most of the resources as people we have to invest, either time or money. You're going to invest one or both of those things to increase your marketing. You need to understand what your goals are going to be. You need to have a goal for traffic. You need to have a goal for ROI. You need to have a goal for your social media following. You need to have goals around these things, and you need to find an accountability partner. If you're going to try to tackle this yourself, you absolutely have to invite someone into that conversation to hold you accountable. And ideally, they would be trying to do the same thing, and you could hold them accountable for what they're doing, and you could share best practices and share what you're learning with each other. When we teach this session at conferences, I love that setting because you naturally have a lot of accountability partners there, but you don't have that on the webinar, so you've got to be thinking about that, thinking about who in my business world could I invite as an accountability partner. And just a little marriage counseling for you, let me just go ahead and throw out the idea you don't invite your spouse to be your accountability partner. It's just not a good idea. So free little marriage advice for you. I've been married 7 years, probably not the guy who should be giving out marriage advice since I've only got 7 years, but I think that's probably just good advice in general. So there's some goal setting you can do in your workbook there. And then strategy number 7, which is also very important, review your analytics at least monthly. We tell people to set a recurring calendar appointment, and you can call it a wine and analytics, or you can call it whatever you want, but sit down with a bottle of wine and maybe just a glass and take a look at your analytics at least monthly. Because if you're not in your data, and unfortunately most people we talk to are rarely in their analytics, you have no idea what's going on with your marketing and how successful or not successful it is. And in today's world where you've got to build your brand more than ever, it's really important to measure your analytics. We tell people we believe your analytics is kind of the pulse of your business. You've got to keep a finger on that pulse by checking your analytics on a regular basis, seeing how much traffic is coming to your website, analyzing what that traffic is doing when it gets there to really be effective. There's a few tips for you there, but the big thing that we see the most as we're reviewing analytics is you might be surprised what's hiding in your data. There are so many aha moments hiding in your data, but you've got to be in the data to detect those. And then as you're in there, make sure that you're creating a habit of making data-driven decisions as well. We want our customers to make emotional decisions. We want to listen to an emotional response from them and get them to make an emotional buying decision. But we as marketers, as business people, we have to make data-driven decisions. And using our analytics data to make marketing decisions will absolutely help you be more effective in the coming year. So as you do that, we always try to end our webinars with a next step. Where do I go from here? You hopefully got some new ideas, you got motivated, you got inspired. I know many of you have requested our marketing graders in the past. If it's been a while, great opportunity to request it again and see if your score has improved. If this is your first time with us, you can request a free marketing grader where we will score your overall marketing effectiveness on 0 to 100, tell you how you score, tell you where you stack up against the industry as a whole as we're seeing it. We've run hundreds of these, honestly, just the last couple of months because we've been doing a lot of speaking. But we've run so many of these, we know where the market is, and we can help you understand what your competitors are doing, not by name, but in general, where your score stacks up against theirs, and then what improvements you need to make. And the great thing about this is you'll leave this conversation, one, with a document for your actual marketing grader, but you'll leave with 3 to 5 action items in every single one of the areas we've talked about today that you can take to improve your marketing. And if you improve your marketing grade, ultimately you're improving the amount of traffic you're going to see and the number of bookings you're going to see coming in. So take advantage of that free resource. There will be a call to action in an email that I send you after we wrap up our time together today, along with that workbook where you can check that out and request that on our website. So I'd encourage you to do that if you want to figure out what your next steps are and get headed down that road. Awesome. So I know I've got some questions in the chat panel. If you haven't had a chance yet, we're going to take some time for Q&A. We've got about 5 minutes till 3 o'clock Eastern time. But like I said, I'll hang around and answer questions as long as we have them. So let me jump in here to the chat panel and see what questions we have. If you haven't had a chance to answer your question, use this time to go ahead and do that. Awesome. Got some great comments here about some different blogging success people have. Thank you for sharing those with us and letting us know about your stories. Appreciate that. A lot of comments about the audio. Thank you for those of you who chimed in on that. Question here, when you share all over referencing blogs, do you mean a link to the blog or the actual blog content cut and pasted? Great question, Chaz. Honestly, it's a combination thereof, depending on what medium you're sharing it in. In social media, the main thing we're looking for is a photo, a great photo that grabs people's interest, a great headline, and then maybe a sentence or two that's linking people back to that blog. Don't just copy and paste, though, because if you copy and paste, you're probably not pulling your best content out of that blog when you copy and paste it. You really have to write that to make sure it's the best. And then if you're sharing it other places, email, we're going to follow the same suggestions I just gave for social. But then other places, you might just share a link. Like if you're trying to get a partner to share it, like a referral partner or somebody like that, definitely you can just get them to share it, and then they can write their own little hook, is what we would call it, like the journalism hook, to get people to actually read it. So great. Had a question about what about every 2 weeks for a blog. Appreciate the question, Paul. I don't have any data on that. What we have found, we used to do less often, and now we do weekly, and we have just seen that weekly really crushes it. You would have more success doing every 2 weeks than you would not doing it at all. But you're going to have the most success doing it weekly for a couple of reasons. One, doing it weekly, you're writing twice as much content as you are if you're doing it every 2 weeks, so just naturally you're going to have more success because you have more opportunities to succeed. But also we believe that consistency, Google rewards that and will rank a higher percentage of the posts you write because you're writing more consistently. You're seen as more an authoritative source for information. So a couple of reasons why we really like the weekly frequency. Paul also asked for an example of something hiding in your data. The easiest example is kind of that moment where you realize you had a great website sending you a lot of traffic last year, and then as you're looking at your analytics, you see, hey, I'm not getting as much traffic from this referral source as I used to be, and then you go in and try to understand why, and you find out, well, maybe your link got broken, or maybe you forgot to renew a listing or something that was really important to your business. That's a real obvious and easy one. Some of the more in-depth ones that take a little deeper analysis goes back to blogging and using your data to really analyze what blog posts are most effective, and we'll look for correlations between the blog posts that are effective and why they were effective. Was it the link? Was it the content? Was it the subject? Was it the keyword? looking for those correlations. Same thing can be done in email marketing, looking at your email marketing campaigns that drove the most traffic and trying to analyze why was that campaign the most successful. But you've got to be in your analytics to be able to do that effectively. Question here from, what is your opinion on posting guest reviews on social media, blog posts, and email marketing? I think it's absolutely okay for those to be a part of it. I wouldn't like pull them out front and center because you don't want to toot your own horn too much. It just doesn't feel natural when you toot your own horn, right? So you can do that a little bit, right? Because you want to position yourself as an authority. You want to position yourself as somebody people love. You want to share those stories, but you just have to use it, limitedly, so you're not overdoing it. Appreciate that question, though. Question here, would you recommend something like Hootsuite to post across social media platforms? Yeah, Hootsuite is very helpful. It's from a time-saving perspective, it can be very helpful. Ultimately, though, every social media platform has its own voice, its own message you need to post to it with. So if you're posting once using Hootsuite and you're using the same message across all platforms, then it's not as effective. It's not as effective as it could be because the message you're sending needs to really be customized to each of those platforms. So a lot of people use it as a time saver, which is great for that, and it can definitely serve that purpose, but it just makes it not as authentic when the post is the same across every platform. So an authenticity is really important in our overall marketing strategy. So hopefully that answered your question. Appreciate all the comments in here as well about about today's webinar and your feedback on that. Thank you very much. We really value your feedback. So if there's ever any comments you have, things you think went really well, things we could have done better, appreciate that. Also, if you ever have any subject or you have any requests for future webinar topics, we always appreciate those. You can email me those. So we're wrapping up here. I think I've got all the questions in the chat box there. But do keep an eye out on your email for that marketing grader, or you can just email me at the email address and phone number that was on the screen just a minute ago, and encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. So thanks, appreciate everybody's time today. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday and are headed into a great weekend that is fully booked for your properties. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.